Breaking: Donald Trump allegedly talked about classified U.S. nuclear submarine information with a member of the Mar-a-Lago Club who turned out to be an Australian billionaire who then proceeded to share the information with more than a dozen foreign officials. This is reckless behavior. Legally, isn't that the definition of espionage, Glenn? Am I wrong?
So even more fundamentally, we have seen him compromise our national security over and over and over and over again, Steph. And the part of it that just I'll never get over is that there are so many people who, when they compromise, one secret document, go to jail, immediately to jail. They do not pass go. They're detained pending trial, like we saw with Jack Teixeira. And yet our system, our institutions of government refuse to step up and detain Donald Trump pending trial, although he is the most dangerous man to American democracy in our nation at the moment. That's the part, it's the unequal application of justice that I will never get past.
Glenn, that's what I was saying. This is why we love you so much, because I feel like very few of us share a sense of urgency about the urgent threat he poses to the United States, both domestically and internationally. And this is what I was saying is, doesn't the seriousness of the crime have anything to do with this? This would seem like this would go to the top of the list. I mean, I know I saw Jack Smith is looking into this. Well, I would hope so, right? But what is, like you say, what's the mechanism? If he can't be detained for this, we don't know what else he has or what else he's sharing, do we? As we speak.
He can be detained. He should be detained. And I would maintain that he must be detained because we have a mechanism for this, Steph, and we deploy it 1,000 times a day in jurisdictions all across our nation. When somebody is indicted in a felony case and the evidence shows clearly and convincingly that they're a danger to our community, that they're a danger to the safety of society, they're jailed pending trial. They're detained pending trial, not as a vehicle to punish them, but to protect society. So we have a vehicle for it. And every last flippant court turns a blind eye to the law as it was intended to be applied. And that's what drives me to distraction.
But isn't this a separate crime, disseminating? This dissemination, there's the theft of classified information, but also disseminating. All his crimes are serious, Glenn, but it does seem like there's a sliding scale, like from sedition to espionage to, I don't know what we did with the Rosenbergs, but do we just be like, oh, we'll just put that in the list of stuff and you can, stay out on bail while we figure that out? I mean, it just seems like the seriousness of the crime would move that to the top of the list, no?
Yes, disseminating national defense information, which has a specific definition under the law, what constitutes national defense information. Yeah. I'm not an expert in that arena, Steph, but disclosing the number of nuclear warheads a submarine is capable of carrying and how close we can get to, Russian ships or submarines without being detected. If that's not national defense information, then perhaps we need to tweak the definition of national defense information. But that is the very definition of espionage under our federal laws. If you disseminate national defense information, you violated our nation's espionage laws.
Yeah.
So listen, Donald Trump could be confined for 10,000 years at this point if he were convicted of all charges against him. And yet that's not enough, Steph, because we see him trying to push his trials farther and farther down the road, if not get them dismissed outright. Now, those efforts will fail, but he needs to be detained pending trial right here, right now.
Well, and also, as luck or lack of luck would have it, his unqualified, hack judge is in charge of the classified documents case. And he's obviously trying to push this past the election. So, God forbid he gets reelected and makes this go away. But I think I'm having a hard time getting my mind around, is that possible with something as serious as espionage?
It's possible in the hands of Judge Aileen Cannon, a Trump appointee who has already been found by an appellate court to have abused her judicial discretion to do an enormous favor, though, for Donald Trump. So, yes, in her hands, this could very well get pushed beyond the 2024 election. The good news is in the hands of Judge Tanya Chutkan in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump's federal prosecution for attempting to overturn the election's results. That will not get pushed. That will proceed with jury selection in March, and Donald Trump will be convicted just as quickly as Peter Navarro was as soon as that jury begins deliberating his fate.
So I'm going to guess what your answer will be to Trump channeling Nixon's defense. If the president does it, it's not illegal. And to just dismiss the January 6th charges, is that kind of a, what's the term, non-starter legally?
Yeah, that is Richard Nixon's, if I do it, it's not illegal. If the president does it, it's not illegal. And Steph, ordinarily I urge people to read court filings, but you know what? I urge no one to read this court filing by Donald Trump's lawyers, because as I was reading it, if the people around me listened very closely, they could hear my brain cells dying and hitting the floor. That is just how stupid, idiotic, and baseless these assertions were by Trump's attorneys that, the case should be dismissed because he's got absolute immunity. Not a thing in the criminal law. Right. So don't read it. But you know what, Steph? Read Jack Smith's reply, because it's coming and it's going to be spectacular.
Yeah. Well, a couple of your tweets. You said September legal recap. Trump suffers massive loss in New York fraud case. Trump loses D.C. recusal motion. First Georgia State RICO co-defendant flips will testify against Trump and company. A spectacularly bad month for Trump. We just played Alina Habba. Bless me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Before you came on. I mean, it is just hard to get your head around that she just didn't check a box. So he's there whining every day that he didn't get a jury trial because they didn't ask for one. So now, he's playing the victim on that. And they're not making, from what I'm told, legal arguments. They're just making political statements in court, which don't work in a court of law, do they?
No, I would just disregard everything that Trump and his mouthpieces, his lawyers, say in the public square, because I hate to go back to Peter Navarro because, that's just not a pleasant topic. But remember how he was endlessly saying the Green Bay sweep was a righteous thing. Yeah. I had executive privilege, therefore I will be found not guilty. The jury, when they started deliberating his fate, Steph, they didn't have time for a cup of coffee. They convicted him so fast it made his head spin. That's because everything that these people say in the public square will never make an appearance inside a court of law. Because these aren't legal arguments. They're not sound or fact-based arguments. So just tune out what they say other than for the comedic value and the danger to our society, and just watch what happens in court.
Speaking of which, you said finally a judge, New York Judge Arthur Engoron, has gagged Trump to stop his dangerous speech and posts. Will this open the floodgates for more judges to restrict Trump's speech? It should, because hashtag justice matters. Because he's going to keep breaking them. A listener yesterday suggested, again, we're not legal experts like you, but suggested, Trump have to pay for the security of every person he threatens on Twitter, on social media or whatever. But I don't know, is that legally possible? What can and will happen, do you think? Because he's just going to keep defying these, isn't he?
Yeah, so let me say again, if he were detained pending trial, that would neutralize the threat and take away his megaphone. Yeah. But I'm going to go dark for a minute, because as much as I celebrated Judge Engoron issuing a snap gag order, no briefs were filed, no arguments were made. A snap gag order. Why? Because Donald Trump endangered somebody that was very important to Judge Engoron, his law clerk. And he had every right to issue that gag order. But why is it? Why is it, Steph, that all of the other judges can't step up and be just as concerned for the witnesses and the jurors and the prosecutors and their family members as Judge Engoron was for somebody that was very important to him, his law clerk, and instantly protect those people against Donald Trump? Yeah. This is an unequal application of the law at play. I'm not criticizing Judge Engoron. I'm criticizing everybody else for refusing to do for other people what Judge Engoron did for his law clerk and staff.
And my question is, why was the gag order so narrow? Why wouldn't it include witnesses, any witnesses or prosecutors or judges or whoever? I mean, I keep having this feeling, Glenn, like everybody keeps saying, are we just going to wait till something really bad happens